Hello everyone, we're finally back to my channel to showcase the house I built for my Sims 4 Let's Play. The first thing I want to address is that it was brought to my attention recently that I may or may not have been pronouncing one of my Sims names wrong, and that Leonard is in fact Leonard, which may seem obvious to a lot of you actually, in fact, but to me with dyslexia, when I see that name written, it looks like Leonard. And who knows, I might just decide to continue calling him Leonard because maybe his parents wanted that to be his name. That's what I was called to call him, if you will. Anyway, I'm glad that I now know what's going on there. So as you can see, I'm experimenting with how I wanted the house to look, and I had a reference picture. A lot of the houses that I build, they end up coming from inspiration, short 3D builds or houses that I see in real life or on social media, and I just tweak them to fit the circumstances. So for this one, I knew the two Sims that I had and I knew what they did for a living, so I could tweak the house to fit their requirements. But I also wanted it to fit in with the surroundings. Like, I know this is a suburban area, so you can see me looking around at the design of the other houses and trying to not mimic it, but make sure that it fit the overall vibe, which is why I'm editing the roof quite a bit, and I end up going with a similar style to the house next door. And I thought that was the best way to try and keep the house on brand. Also with the stairs, at the beginning you saw me playing around with platforms because the rest of the houses are on a platform, so I felt like this house should be on a platform also, and I didn't know if I could make platform stairs, but I couldn't, so I just put some regular stairs down. It took me a while to get to the stage where I liked the way that the roof looked, and I always have liked the sort of annex look where it seems as if there's a room sticking out from the roof and get some more square footage in. So that's what I went with at the end, because it also hid that mini gap there was between the top roof and the secondary roof. Also, as you see, it plays into the build and gives us more room to play with. I also used a lot of skills in this build that I personally hadn't used before. I didn't know that when you're editing the roof, you can hold down shift and that will move only one side of the roof, and I use that a lot for the end pieces that jut out from the house to give the style that I really wanted. And this build actually had quite a few issues. I kept having to go back to it to fix things that I'd forgotten about, and you'll see that at the end, because what I do is I've made this house with the money that those Sims had from Create a Sim. So no cheats, or very little cheats, but it keeps the money that they have the same. And because of the size of this house and the fact that I wanted it to actually look lived in, the entire top floor is unfurnished. And I knew that that was going to happen. I wanted this house to evolve throughout the Let's Play as the Sims stories progress. I kept having that bug that I wanted to finish the house, so I finished the house eventually, but in doing that I looked back at the house that I'd built and I was like, I'd forgotten this and I'd forgotten this, and I didn't put windows on the top floor, for instance. So when I do end up going in and editing the top floor of the house, I had to make quite a few additions, but I made a speed build of that complete house, and the version that you see, it evolves throughout, let me just say that. The way that I approach my builds is I end up just going with the flow, because I don't always know how I want each room to look. So if you see me jumping around the house and you think that place is finished, it's not. And also the furniture that I have in the kitchen and the living room, we've got a sort of open plan vibe going here. That's not the end product furniture, it's just the placeholders I put so that I can remind myself what room is meant to be what, and see how it would look once I finish. I wanted there to be quite a bit of counter space and an island because of the reference picture I was following, and I'll put it on the screen here. I knew that that's what I wanted, but I didn't know exactly where like the fridge or the oven was going to go, and in comparison to the window. And I see that the oven isn't underneath the window, and I wanted it to be. I couldn't have it just slightly off to the side. It hurt me a lot. So what I ended up doing is just using the end pieces of the counters and filling in the spaces in between. And that's how I got what I have here. And I've also just made an island using the end pieces of the islands as well as like the middle piece. And then I went into live mode or live mode, I never know which one's the right one to say, to make sure that it was playable. But then I forgot that I still had those filler pieces of furniture in the house that I didn't actually want to keep. But once you go into live mode, there's a bit of depreciation of the products that you buy. That's the way that The Sims works. So if I sold these items that I'd popped in the house, I would get less for them. And we were already working on a tight budget, so I ended up just being like, I'm gonna have to keep that sofa there, and I'm gonna have to keep that armchair. But also, having said that, these were some of the best choices in the base game, because remember, we only have the base game to work with here, and there were amazing choices in our price range. So what we ended up with was sort of the best of what we was going to get. I also wanted to experiment with pieces that I don't use often, because I'm very much a homing pigeon in the sense that I will just see something that works well, and usually I'm playing with the same sort of sim for myself, and I end up just using that product over and over and over again. But I was like, this is a new Let's Play, this is a new chapter in my Sims 4 gameplay. Let me try and use something different and go with a different sort of vibe. And that's the whole point of, you know, building new houses, is for them to look different. So these doors that I've put in, I don't usually use them, and I didn't realize that there are some swatches that are really nice actually, especially with like the window above the door, that I really liked. And what I've decided for this floor plan is essentially there's gonna be Rashad's room, and he has an ensuite, and his room's gonna be on the ground floor, and it's gonna stay there for the foreseeable. That's my plan for his room. So I was trying to make it kind of fit his vibe, which I thought was cool grandpa. So it wasn't going to be neutral colors or just like the typical bathroom colors, which for me is usually like a blue or like a white. I wanted it to be kind of deep, rich tones that fit his style. And then Leonard's room currently is the room next to Rashad's room. See, I call him Leonard. I can't not call him Leonard. Anyway, I don't know if Leonard's room is going to stay on the ground floor. I think once we get some more moolah, he might move upstairs. But we shall see, because at the moment, we don't actually have access to the garden from inside the house. You have to go out the front door, because the only place that I could see putting a door to the garden is through Leonard's room, or right next to the stairs. That doesn't really work in Sims, and in real life that wouldn't really work anyway. So we're gonna see where we go throughout our Let's Play. I also haven't decided if I'm gonna do the Let's Play as a rags to riches or if I'm gonna do it as a generation challenge. So let me know if you guys have any thoughts. I might do a poll online, or I might just decide myself. We shall see. I also wanted in this build to kind of branch out and not just do like a typical bed goes here, armchair goes there sort of design. And that's why I was thinking of different ways I can spice up their rooms, and I put a platform in Rashad's room, and that platform ends up being his skill building area. So Rashad is an athlete, and that's where I've given him his home gym. It's not huge, it's not a lot, but it's something to work with at the beginning of the game, and it gives a statement piece to his room, like a statement wall. And I gave Leonard a statement wall too, and you can see me just sort of trialing out where I want it to go and fixing placements. And with the windows as well, I wanted them to also add to the uniqueness of the house. Like, I didn't want just 2 windows here and they didn't really fit. And I also didn't realize, I don't know why, that you can't size up windows. I really thought that you could. Like, I thought you could size up mirrors as well. Not an option. Don't worry, I realized. And I ended up going with a more kind of like modern vibe for Leonard's room, where you can see through his room with the huge windows at the back. And when we get more money, I'll add more things to his room. So he ends up having a desk in there, And in fact, his room was closest to the reference picture. One of the reasons why I was so drawn to that reference picture was because of the room, and so I really wanted Leonard's room to kind of replicate that as well as I could. But it ended up changing as I decided how I wanted it to look more in real gameplay rather than just following someone's picture, someone's 3D model, in fact. And so you see me jumping around in here, but not just because of what I said about my build style, but also because you're really limited when you're trying to make a build as nice as possible with just the base game. End tables and accent tables are not nice at all in The Sims 4. In the base game, it's so hard to find like a good one. And then for the bathroom, I found this beautiful piece that felt like a vanity. I'm not really sure what you would call it. And I loved it so much and I really wanted it to work. It didn't end up working, spoiler alert, because as you can see, you can't use the sink. And I tried with using like a kitchen sink, something that didn't stand up on its own. It still didn't work. Maybe I will find another way to use that piece, but I don't see it happening. I also wanted some nice end tables that weren't too huge and matched the bed, and these were the best I could come up with. I also struggled a lot with Rashad's color scheme of his room. Like, I couldn't decide if I wanted it to be beige, browns, creams, but I'm quite happy with what I ended up with. And also, I can't forget to add in the light switches now that that's in the base game. I also didn't know if I wanted like a light switch separately in the kitchen and in the open plan living room area, but I ended up going with just one, and I'm gonna tell myself in my head that it's got 2 switches, and we're just gonna go with that. Also, for the kitchen, it's very annoying because, as you can see in sort of the front room and the outside of the house, I leaned into the vibe that this was the greenhouse on the road. Remember how I said I was looking at the other houses and drawing references from them? The other houses are like mostly one color. So you've got the blue house and you've got the kind of brown house. This is the greenhouse. They didn't have green on this stretch. So I said, we're gonna be green. And that's why the kitchen is green, and you've got like green windows and the green door. And I wanted that to be the case. In gameplay now, Leonard, the chef, who will end up spending most of his time in the kitchen, does not like said kitchen. He thinks it isn't decorated well. Well, Leonard, boo friggin' who. I'm sorry, but I actually agree with you a little bit. And I think I end up changing the wallpaper for the house that they're in, or I change it for the finished house. But I do actually agree that I don't really like the wallpaper anymore. But I'm not changing the counters because the counters work for the price and just for the overall vibe. They work. So he's gonna have to live with that. I also always forget to use terrain paints, and I forget that they're also free. But I remembered this time and I used them, so props to me. One thing I did not remember though is to change the foundation. It's just got the default foundation, but that can change. Maybe the foundation is a work in progress for them. The more that I was like experimenting with finding new pieces, the more that I was finding pieces that I thought actually really worked well, and I liked the fact that I forced myself out of my comfort zone. We also have a few extra problems. So you see how I've done the stairs? I knew from when I placed them that The Sims made it easier to make curved stairs. But I wanted that wall there. I wanted the platform because I thought I would be able to make a room down there and put maybe a secondary bathroom there, but it's not possible. It's not possible, and The Sims couldn't even use those stairs. So I tried to go into the gameplay and they couldn't get upstairs. So I had to go back into build mode. I don't know why I didn't play test that before, but I had to go back and edit that. But once I did edit it, it gave me more money. So I was able to add in a few extra pieces to the landscaping and also some patio chairs, which you'll see in a moment. But also, because I started through story mode, they had extra items in their household inventory, and it felt a bit like a cheat to use the money from that. It did. But at the same time, it was also a cheat to use the money that they were starting with, because usually you always start off with 20,000 simoleons, and because I did it through a story, they started off with 40,000. So they were already way ahead of the curve. So I ended up selling some of the stuff, or using some of the stuff from the inventory, like the coffee machine that was in their inventory. I used that to add more things, put simply, to add more things to their house. I also haven't spoken about the upstairs bathroom. There isn't that much to say. It's just going to be like the guest bathroom. Hopefully they use it, but knowing the Sims and the routing, like, they're going to use Rashad's bathroom. I'm going to have to lock it so that the other Sims can't use it. But I already have had like experience, because I went into the game to like make sure everything works, and as soon as I did, the welcome wagon came. They didn't use the bathroom, but Leonard did, and he ended up using Rashad's bathroom, and I was just like, this is annoying. Like, you have a perfect bathroom upstairs, and that prompted the whole spiral of, oh, you can't use it. But that revelation actually helped me then use the eaves that I said I would come back to. Remember the roof eaves? So I opened out the rooms and I used those to make the bathroom a bit bigger, and allowed me to have the kind of layout that I wanted. Also, I don't know if you guys already know this, but when you're moving furniture around, like your counters, don't put your counters in your household inventory, because it ends up just making them all the default counter, which is the one that the sink is on. And you can't then change them to the different versions that you want without paying extra money. So don't do that. Also, pro tip, if you want to add things to your household inventory, you can do that by just pressing backspace. I wish I knew that time ago, because I was complaining about how in The Sims 3 you could just press I to add things to your household inventory, and in The Sims 4 they didn't have a keyboard shortcut. They do. So now you know, and now I know. Anyway, I added in all the necessary things, and I had some moolah left over to add in some landscaping and choose the right flowers. And that's why Miss Pancakes is there. It's because she's part of the welcome wagon when I realized that the stairs weren't working and I had extra money to play with. But that is the house for our Sims, and we're gonna go in, we're gonna play with it as it is, we're gonna see how they like it. We already know some parts they like more than others. Anyway, I'm gonna stop talking and let you just enjoy the atmosphere of the house a little bit, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.